Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as always, to have you guys joining me here today. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and here's how today's going to go, and it's going to be an interesting day. All right, so I've picked out about 3 items from World of Movie News that have dropped in the last little bit that I'm going to talk about here. Then I'm going to go over to the topics that you guys have sent in to me. How do you send in a question to me? It's really simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. And also, guys, make sure you put that word topic in the subject line. If the word topic's not in there, I ain't going to see it. And of course, as always, keep your emails to 90 words or less, or else I'm not going to read it, because even if I wanted to use it, I wouldn't be able to fit it on the screen. After that, for those of you who guys are watching live, I do this show live every morning at 8 a.m., Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, that is. And I know there's already a whole ton of you guys here live. I'm going to save a bit of time near the end of the show to take your comments and your questions live. How do you submit a question live? Don't do it right now. I'll tell you when to send it in. But you're going to tweet to me at John Campea. Just start off your tweet with at John Campea. Send them on in. I will save as much time as I can and get through as many tweets as I can. And maybe you will see your comment or tweet pop up here on the bottom of the screen. So, with all that out of the way, okay, let's get into it, shall we? All right, so obviously there's been this whole thing. First of all, Justice League is coming. I've got 2 sets of tickets, and I'm going to go see a screening of it soon. Very excited about it, and I also bought my opening night tickets as well so I could be there with the real audience and watch it. I'm very excited about it, and of course, the best guy to ever play Batman, Ben Affleck as Batman. Now, there has been a whole lot of talk about Batman, myself included. Obviously, the Foreigner, I've told you guys a long time ago, despite the fact that he is the best Batman we've ever had, and that he's awesome, and I am a huge fan of Ben Affleck, that there's a 50-50 chance he'll do one more. He ain't doing any more after that. And I'm not even positive he's going to do one more after Justice League, to be honest with you. But there's a 50-50 chance he does one more, no more after that. So, and that's been going back and forth, right? And then at Comic-Con, while Comic-Con was going on, you of course remember the Hollywood Reporter. And the specific reporter is a member of the Peabody Council. So, like, she has, like, the highest journalistic integrity. She's been in this business for decades. She's one of the best in the business. She reported that she has contacts in Warner Brothers that have let her know that they're already working out how to arrange Ben Affleck's departure. Now, that happened, and everybody said, well, tomorrow is the Justice League panel. They have to deny it. You can't acknowledge that report before Justice League comes out. They have to deny it. Sure enough, Ben Affleck comes out. Woo! I'm Batman! This is effing awesome! Being Batman is awesome! I'm going to be Batman forever! Okay, he didn't say forever, but you know, he was very enthusiastic. To which everybody said, see, the report was wrong. Okay, so now we're getting close to Justice League coming out, and it's almost as if you can see it on Ben Affleck's face going, oh, thank God I don't have to keep this charade going on it much longer, because he just did a press junket, and they did not press junket Justice League in North America, which is really weird that they didn't do that. I'm sure they have their reasons. I'm just saying it's very odd. It's very unusual that a big film does not junket in North America. It's not unusual for them to have junkets in other countries, but they normally, even when they do it in other countries, they normally do it here as well. That's what normally happens, but for whatever reason, they decided to avoid North America. I'm sure they've got their reasons. But during an interview, I believe it was with ETV, and I don't have it, the link in the description right now. I will put the link in the description. You can find it, I'm sure. Just hop on YouTube. It's flying all over the place right now, this video clip. They were interviewing Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck. And, and the guy who plays Cyborg. Why am I forgetting his name? Anyway, the guy's in the chat board. The guy who plays Cyborg. What's his name? Anyway, here's the thing. So they're interviewing, and the interviewer basically asked Ben Affleck. And again, I'm going to find the link to this so you can find it yourself. And the interviewer asked Ben Affleck, first of all, Ben Affleck looks like he's got no energy. And maybe he was just tired. Some people are saying he clearly doesn't have any enthusiasm. Well, you know what? These press junkets can be very tiring. So maybe he was just tired. But at any rate. So they asked him, he goes, like, how many times have you played Batman now? And Ben Affleck says, well, if you count Suicide Squad, I've played Batman 3 times. And then the interviewer basically asked him, will you play him 2 more times? Basically says, will you make that 5? Will you make it, you've done 3, will you make it 5? Will you do 2 more times? And guys, the way I cannot do justice to the complete lack of enthusiasm the way that Ben Affleck answered the question. You have to see the video yourself. But as soon as the guy suggests, hey, can you do 2 more? And he goes, I don't know about that. We'll see what the future holds. So, I mean, that's and it's, look, it's not just, I don't know about that. We'll see what the future holds. You got to see the way he said it. I can't do it justice. It was like almost dismissively the way he said it. He says, oh, you're going to be Batman 2 months? Oh, I don't know about that. We'll see what the future holds. And then they just move on to the next thing. The interviewer didn't want to go back to that and say, wait a minute, and want to dig into that a little bit. And I get it. He probably had 2 minutes with them to ask as many questions as he could. So he probably didn't want to spend too much time on that one issue. So I have been reading now a lot of people online who have firmly believed that Ben would be back and back long term. Again, I still think there's a 50-50 chance he does the first Matt Reeves standalone Batman movie. 50-50. I won't be surprised if he does it. I won't be surprised if he doesn't. But 50-50 at best is the chance that he does that. But I know some people and who have been, no, don't you worry. Ben's here long term. Ben's our Batman. Ben's our Batman. And I even saw them last night on Twitter going, oh God, he really is gone. Oh God, he really is gone. You're going to have to see it. And again, let's leave room here that even though Jason Momoa looked like he still had tons of energy, Jason Momoa is younger and bigger and fitter, but maybe Ben was just tired. Maybe he was just flat out exhausted from a long day. And he just didn't want to bother with any questions. He didn't want to say anything. That's all possible. But I do know this, is that I will keep yelling till the cows come home that this guy is the best Batman we've ever had. And if some miracle could happen that he can stay in this universe, and I think after we see Justice League, we're going to want him to stay even more, because I think he's going to kill it in Justice League because he's Ben Affleck. That's what he does. He kills it. And who knows, maybe a miracle can happen somewhere along the ways, but I'm telling you guys, like, don't get too used to seeing this guy being the best we've ever had in the cowl for much longer, which really sucks if that's the case. But you know what? It's a situation of next guy up. You know, like the New England Patriots, the football team. Hey, one of their superstars gets hurt. No problem. The team has a principle with their team. Next man up. It's like, okay, superstar's down, whatever. Next guy, you're up. And even if Affleck leaves, some people are pretending like it's doom and gloom for the DC Cinematic Universe if Ben Affleck leaves. He is the best we've ever had, but that doesn't mean we can't get somebody better or somebody just as good. Just because we haven't seen anybody else in the role yet doesn't mean we can't get somebody who may not crush it just as much as Ben Affleck has. So if Ben Affleck stays, yay! If he leaves, there's no reason to panic about that. I mean, I wanted Ben Affleck attached to this thing forever. I wanted him writing the DC movies. I wanted him directing the DC movies. You all know how I feel about Ben. But if he leaves, okay, he leaves. Next man up. We'll get the next person in this, the next person loaded with talent in to do it. So if he stays, awesome. If he goes, it's not the end of the world. They'll get somebody else and they'll pick somebody great and we'll carry on. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. Sorry, I spent a little bit more time on that than I meant to. Let's move on to the next one. We got a couple other big ones here. Last night, the first trailer for the new Steven Spielberg directed, starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. How's that for a trifecta? Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, Steven Spielberg. And Bob Odenkirk as well in there. Whole lot of big names. The first trailer for Spielberg's new film, The Post, dropped last night. And there's been a lot of mystery around this because the movie opens like really soon, like in about a month the movie opens. And we haven't seen anything from this film. And a lot of people, like, considering Spielberg was still even doing some post work on Ready Player One, and he's looking forward to his other ones, a lot of people started thinking this movie, The Post, might be just a little bit of a throwaway project for Steven Spielberg. Yeah, he got Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep together, but we don't see them giving it much attention. It's probably not going to be much. The trailer dropped last night. This trailer, again, it's just a trailer. We've seen lots of great trailers to bad movies, but this trailer has Best Picture nominee written all over it. I loved this trailer. One of my favorites of the year. It captured the drama of it, the tension, the stakes, the fact that it's based on a true story, the fact that you got the greatest filmmaker of all time, the fact that you have two of the greatest performers, male and female, of all time in it, and the story looks killer. This trailer was everything I was wanting it to be and that I would hope for. It looks amazing. And this is why. You know, it's movies like this that sometimes we don't even hear a lot of talk about until we get close to December, that you can't start making predictions about Best Picture nominees in the beginning of October or at the end of August or in September, because we keep saying this every year, right? Like you say it, I say it. It's like, guys, there's a lot of high profile films that may not be big blockbusters that are coming out in award season that'll probably bump whatever films you're thinking are going to be on your Best Picture of the Year nomination list. And this is one of them. Another of them is Three Billboards. We'll talk about Three Billboards a little bit later. I just thought this trailer was astounding. Now, who knows? Maybe the movie will suck. Maybe it'll be terrible. Maybe this is yet another Transformer situation where we get a fantastic trailer to an utterly bag of crap movie. Maybe. That's always possible. But all I know is that the trailer looked amazing. All right, let's move on to this. And everybody across America, make this sound with me. Wah, wah. We're talking about the Universal Monsters universe. The Universal Monster Universe. Say that 3 times fast. Everybody remember the big grand plan that Universal came out with before they even had one movie. Before even one movie was out, they announced like this 5-film slate. They announced all these actors and stars. They put out this now iconic picture of failure. That's what we're going to call this. The iconic picture of failure. They were announcing this whole monster. We're going to do The Invisible Man, and we're going to do Frankenstein, and we're going to do more Mummy, and we're going to do this, and it's going to be woo! It's going to be awesome. All before they even put out one single film. Actually, let me bring that picture up again for a second. As a matter of fact, what we learned recently, like they put Javier Bardem in these pictures, right? Here's what we learned recently. Javier Bardem was never signed up. Javier Bardem was never signed up. They were in talks with him. It looked like he was going to be it, but we have since learned that he never signed up in the first place. And yet they're putting out these big, massive ad campaigns. Woo! The Universal Monster Universe is coming. Isn't it going to be great? All before they even had one single movie out in theater. Now, here's the thing. The Mummy comes out. Some people were trying to label it as a big box office bomb. It wasn't. It actually made a slight bit of coin, despite whatever reports you may have read. It made over $400 million worldwide. So it did, I mean, look, it basically covered its costs, but that is much smaller than what Universal wanted it to be. They wanted it to be a much bigger hit than that. Critics and a lot of the audience hated it. I will admit, I am one of the people that I didn't hate the film. I actually thought it had some things going for it. And I walked out going, okay, that was all right. It was all right. A lot of people hated it. I was one of the biggest cheerleaders of the film by saying, it's all right. I mean, that made me one of the most positive guys about the movie. But I didn't think the movie was terrible. But clearly, whether you love the movie or hate a movie, we can all agree it came in way below the standard that we were expecting from it. We had high hopes for this film. Tom Cruise was on a roll when he signed up for it. So, I mean, we just expected big things. Universal expected big things. And what we got was a resounding dud from the audience, from the critics, and it didn't impress. It may not have flopped, but it did not impress at the box office, which sent everybody attached to this universe scurrying. And you know what? Yesterday we talked on it was on Star Wars Talk Tuesday yesterday that we talked about the fact that I don't see Lucasfilm shooting movies back to back because Lucasfilm really seems set on this idea of do one movie. We don't really know how that movie is going to turn out until it's on screen and we put it in front of audiences. Now let's see how everything worked. Let's see how the audiences respond to it. Now let's adjust and now make the next movie. And Universal coming out with these big grandiose plans and announcing it. Now it's embarrassing. Now it's just embarrassing that they did this. Anyway, what has happened since and what kind of broke this morning is we already knew that the Bride of Frankenstein movie was basically put on hiatus. It was running, it was just about to go into pre-production, and they pulled the plug on it. They kept saying, oh, we'll come back to it. Well, no, they're not coming back to it. It's gone. Now this morning, I think it was Moore and Alex Kurtzman. Kurtzman, who's like been the god, he's the shepherd. He's the Kevin Feige, if you will, of this particular Monsters universe. And I was lucky enough to have him in and interview him about The Mummy. He's a great guy, and I think he's made some really good films. He made some bad ones, but he's also made some really good ones. Well, now the guy who's supposed to be the shepherd of this whole thing, the mastermind behind it all, him and Moore, departed. The Hollywood Reporter reported this morning that both of them have now left. They're both out. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point. Now, the official word coming out of Universal is that we're taking a step back and we're going to reevaluate. Okay, that's what they're saying. I believe it's done. I believe they're done. And if they do make any more Universal classic monster movies, I don't think you're going to see them do it with a shared universe. And actually, I think the Hollywood Reporter story might have said something about that. But at any rate, I think this thing is done. It looks like it's finished before it really got out of the gate. And you know what? Maybe if they had just said, we're making this movie The Mummy, and we have an eye towards developing a larger cinematic universe around it, and just left it at that. Just left it at that. Not announce 5 more films. Not put out big marketing photos like this thing to get cheap headlines really quick when ultimately these things are just going to embarrass you later. If they had just said, hey, we're making this movie The Mummy with an eye towards maybe expanding it into a shared universe, then they made that movie, and even if it turned out as good or as bad as it did right now, they could still say, okay, now we've learned some things, we're going to adjust and we're going to move forward. But instead, they backed themselves into a corner, and we're kind of in the situation that we're in right now, which is really too bad for them. Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you think the Monsters Universe thing is done? Is it finished? Do you think it will make a resurgence? Do you think it's dead completely, or do you think they'll still put out a couple of standalone films? What did you think of The Mummy in the first place? Jump into the comments section. Let me know what you guys are thinking. All right, with that said out of the way, let's get on now to the most important stuff, which is the topics that you guys have sent in to me. And we start this with the first emailed in topic, which comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Spencer Smothers, who writes, did Fox make the right decision for the Alien franchise? After Prometheus, we learned that Neil Blomkamp was working on a movie in the franchise, but was later shelved so Ridley Scott could continue the Prometheus franchise. So, was it the right decision to go with Ridley Scott, or should they have gone with Neil Blomkamp? I'm going to tell you right now, it was 100% the right decision to go with Ridley Scott. It was the right decision. Now, you can now make an argument that Alien Covenant didn't work out so well, but that doesn't change the fact that at the time, the right decision was going with Ridley Scott. That was the right decision at the time, especially considering the momentum he had going for him and the negative momentum Neil Blomkamp. Look, I honestly have met Neil Blomkamp. I think he's a really good guy, but I am questioning him as a feature-length director. Yes, District 9 was fantastic. I loved it. But that was a pet project of his that he had been working on for almost a decade. So he knew that world. He knew that intimately, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry, I know some people like to try to talk positively about Elysium. Elysium was a mess. Elysium was a mess. It's a bad movie. And I know a lot of people, including myself, the first time I saw it, I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt, but like, there's just no getting around it. It's a poorly made movie. Forget Chappie. Chappie was just crap. Chappie was awful. And so I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of interest in seeing an Alien movie by this guy. I wanted to see him go back to something smaller and work and show me that he can do a feature-length film that wasn't his own brainchild from first conception 10 years ago. I wanted to see that. There is no question, no matter how good or bad Alien Covenant worked out, at the time, the right decision was going with the Ridley Scott option. That was absolutely the right move. I have zero doubt about that. You may have a different opinion. That's cool. Because you may think, well, Alien Covenant didn't work out, but that's hindsight. At the time, I think it's clearly the best decision was to go with Ridley Scott. And even now that it looks like the Alien franchise may be dead now, I still I'm not interested in Neil Blomkamp's Alien. I'm just not. I was for a short period of time, but then I realized, not interested. Now, if he does one, then good for him, and hopefully it turns out great. But I'll be honest, I'm not interested. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from another Patreon supporter named Daniel Tickner, who writes, do you think that gun violence in movies will be less popular in America now that people are really aware of real-world gun violence? The Punisher is looking less appealing to me since the terrible things in Vegas and Texas happened. Okay, now, I'm going to be very careful. You guys know this. I have some very strong political opinions, but I do not bring those political opinions to my YouTube channel. This is a place for us to talk about movies and TV show and all the things we have in common. And I'm sure you and I have some things we agree upon politically. I'm sure you and I have some things we disagree upon politically. That's fine here, because here we're all movie fans, and that's great. If you want to know my own particular political beliefs and whatever, I share those quite often on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever, and that's fine. But here, we're movie fans. So I want to be very careful about how I address this, because I don't want to get into the political angle of this. Hopefully what I'm going to say is something that we all agree on, okay? And that is this. We all agree. Gun violence in America is a problem. The number of gun-related deaths in the USA compared to the rest of the world is ridiculously disproportionate. I think we all agree with that. We all agree with that. We have different opinions as to why, but we all agree with that. That's the truth. And while it is true that recently we've had some very high-profile gun violence situations happen, the fact of the matter is, it's not new. Yes, 20 or 30 people tragically losing their lives in one incident, that's a relatively new thing. Yes. But the reality is, in 2015, not including suicides, over 13,000 people in the United States were killed with guns. So my point here, and that's fine. I'm not saying why or whatever. My point here is this, is that while some of the higher profile headlines are new, gun violence in America isn't new. This isn't new. We can make an argument whether it's getting a little bit better or whether it's getting a little bit worse. Yes, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, a number of years ago, we lived in a country with like 13,000 gun deaths. Okay, so that's the culture we live in. I don't know, so that's a long about way for me to say, I don't know that if these new headline-grabbing stories are necessarily really going to deter a lot of people away from watching Punisher. Because hopefully, most of us, and by most, I hope like 99% of us, we know how to separate reality from television fiction and fun fantasy and stuff like that, right? I love the Jedi. I don't know if I want some unsanctioned dudes running through the streets with laser swords, cutting people down, whether they're good guys or bad guys. I don't know if I want that, but it's the movies. So I'm fine with it. I know how to separate the fantasy of drama and fiction from what goes on in the real world. I think most people in the United States can do that as well. It's not as if like 3 years ago there were 50 gun deaths in America and now there's 5,000. It's not like there's been that type of thing. So honestly, I think it's a very good question, but I really don't think it's going to deter people that much. Now, when it's really close to an event, I applaud Netflix's from a business point of view, not from a moral point of view, because I'm amoral on this. But from a business point of view, I think it was the right move for Netflix to separate the launch of Punisher a little bit from that huge incident. Yeah, that was smart. But I still think overall, you're not going to see much of an impact on Punisher because it's really not a new thing in America. And I think most Americans know how to separate fantasy from fiction or reality from fiction. So I think we'll be fine. And I think Punisher will be fine. And I'm just really looking forward to it. I can't wait to see it. All right. Next question comes to us from Mason H, who writes, big fan of the show. Thank you so much, Mason. I would love to hear your thoughts on Kevin Tsujihara mandating a 2-hour Justice League movie. Why exactly this mandate? More ticket sales or to make a tighter movie? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Yeah, so Kevin Tsujihara, who, you know, hey, look, with all the whatever criticism you may have about the DCEU, Kevin Tsujihara has done some really smart things at Warner Brothers as a whole. He's a good captain for their ship. He really is. And I'm a bit of a fan. I know. What kind of nerd is a fan of executive? I'm a fan of Kevin Tsujihara. I am. He's made some mistakes, but I also think he's made some really good moves that haven't been reported on or haven't been like given headlines, I should say. So I think he's a smart dude. I really think that the vast majority of the people at Warner Brothers felt Batman vs. Superman. And look, a lot of the fans, a lot of the audience agreed with this too. And even if you are a fan of Batman vs. Superman, you know that I am. You'll acknowledge, hey, there is a bloat issue to Batman vs. Superman. And the consensus around Warner Brothers was that BVS was a bloated film. And I think what they wanted was a leaner, tighter movie. More killer, less filler. You know what I mean? I think that's what they want to go. I think they looked at movies like Guardians of the Galaxy was 2 hours. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours. And it killed it with the critics, killed it with the audience, killed it at the box office. They introduced 5 new characters. They had no problem with pacing and timing. You know, the first X-Men movie is barely over an hour and a half. And it's a great comic movie. So I think they looked at it and they just wanted... Now, some people say, no, more ticket sales. Well, more ticket sales only counts if you're selling out every movie theater as it is. And at $800 million worldwide, a little north of $800 million worldwide, you're not selling out every single screening. You know, you talking about a movie that's at $1.2, $1.3 billion worldwide for talking about selling out every single screening. Then you can make a little bit of extra money. But otherwise, there are still empty seats in the theaters that you can buy. I think they wanted a leaner, tighter movie with better pace to it. And a better pace also ups the phonetic energy of the film a little bit too. And I think a lot of the execs at Warner Brothers were like, you know what? You need to start off knowing you're making this movie 2 hours. Like, we're not going to not warn you, and then you go off and make a 3-hour movie, and then we're going to hit you at the last second saying, now cut it down to 2 hours. No, they let them know in advance, hey, 2-hour window. So now you know you got to fit everything you want to do into 2 hours and pace it properly to really have that impact with a 2-hour movie. And you guys know I have been arguing and screaming at the heavens. 2 hours is perfectly fine for a movie. Perfectly fine. Some of the greatest films ever made are 2 hours or less. Some films that introduce all new sets of characters and all this kind of stuff, because I hear people saying, oh, but John, you know, we got to introduce Flash, and we got to introduce Aquaman, and we got to introduce Cyborg and Commissioner Gordon. Every movie has to introduce 8 characters, all right? Every movie has to do that. And again, I just point to Guardians of the Galaxy. They had to introduce Star-Lord and Gamora and Drax and Groot and Rocket and the villains and the Nova Corps and the concept of the Kree and all that. They had to do all that stuff in one movie, and yet they made it 2 hours. And it was fantastic. I believe that 2 hours was the right length for Justice League. Now, I may change my mind about that once I see the movie. I might see the movie and go, you know, that was good. Could have used another 15 minutes, I think. Or who knows, we might see it and go, you know what, that was good, but they could have shaved about 10 minutes off of that and it would have been even tighter and a better movie. Who knows? We simply won't know. I just keep wanting to caution my fellow comic book movie fans who are screaming to the heavens, the sky is falling, the movie's not 2.5 hours. I just want to caution my brethren that, hey guys, look, we don't know. Until we see the movie, we do not know if 2 hours is the perfect runtime for it or the completely wrong runtime for it. And there's no way to know until we sit down and actually see how they pace it, see how much content's in there, see how they space it out. And then once we do, then we'll know. Do not start getting yourself tied up in a knot over it's 2 hours. Most movies are 2 hours. Some of the greatest films of all times are 2 hours. Don't let that worry you. Let's see the movie, and then we'll figure out and we'll get a better sense if it's the right runtime or not. And I think the executives at Warner Brothers, feeling that they needed to streamline their films a little more, get away from the bloat, tighten it up, so they gave the mandate, make it 2 hours. And I see nothing wrong with that. And if Justice League works out the way I think it's going to work out, at least I'm hoping it works out, then we're all going to look to Kevin Tsujihara and say, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You were right. So, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how that all kind of pans out. All right. 2 more email questions, and then we're going to go to the live questions for you guys in the live chat board. This next one comes to us from Robert Spinosa, who writes, my question is regarding the Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri movie. Have you seen the trailers for this movie? And if so, are you excited about it as I am? The movie has a great cast, Frances McDormand, Woody Harrelson, Peter Dinklage, don't forget about Sam Rockwell, to name a few. I'm just worried that it releasing this week, right in between Thor and Justice League, it won't get as much recognition as it should. Your thoughts? Talking about The Post, and we're talking about Three Billboards. These movies look amazing. Amazing. And I love talking about movies like that. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to be off to see it here pretty soon, but it just looks fabulous. The cast is insane. The trailers have been remarkable. This movie looks like gold. And I love talking about this movie too, because I know there are a lot of you guys who only get yourselves out to the movie theaters when a good big comic book movie comes out. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm hoping when you're watching my show and we talk about movies like The Post and we're talking about these ones, I hope you guys give yourself the opportunity to get out there and expand a little bit and check out movies like these. I think these things look fantastic. Sam Rockwell looks killer. I got nothing to base this on because I haven't seen the movie. So I'm making a wild, baseless speculation guess. I think Sam Rockwell's getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination. There, I said it. Again, I may change my mind after I see the movie. Who knows? But yes, I have seen it. And you know what? This is great example of counter programming. This movie is nothing like Justice League. This movie is nothing like Thor. It's a completely different type of movie that quite honestly is going for a lot of a different sort of audience. So I don't believe dropping this movie now or dropping it on January 30th or dropping it on April 7th or whatever is going to make much of a difference. I think it will do just fine what it is because it is significantly different enough from Thor and from Justice League that's not going to be impacted too terribly much. Where you're going to get some impact is people who don't normally go out to see movies like this, maybe would have given it a chance, but are saving their ticket money instead for Justice League and Thor. That's fine too. But I encourage you, splurge a little bit, treat yourself, get out there and see this movie. I'm really excited about it. I cannot wait to see it. All right, final email question of the day, and then I'm going to go over to the live chat board because you guys have been waiting so patiently. The final email topic today comes to us from Jonathan Spinosa, who writes, "Hey, John. I feel that the Oscars should have an award for Best Young Actor/Actress, being under 18, because it seems extremely difficult for a child to win Best Actor/Actress when they are being compared to others with years more experience. Do you think this would be a good addition?" Thank you so much for the question, Jonathan Espinosa. I appreciate you, and I applaud you thinking outside of the box, but hell no. Hell no. Look, young actors have won the award. There's Rogue. There's Anna Paquin. I know, this is weird. That's Anna Paquin at 11 years old, winning the Academy Award, I believe, for Best Supporting Actress. And guess what? She's not even the youngest person to ever win an Academy Award. She's not. It's weird. That's Anna Paquin. Isn't that weird? Anyway, so young people can win them. Many young people have been nominated. Quvonjene, I always mispronounce Q's name. Quvonjene Wallace, I want to say that's her name. So she just recently, a little child actor, she could have won that too. I mean, legit, she could have won that. But to me, when we're saying, and I'm not making fun of you, Jonathan, I applaud you, but it's like to me to go, oh no, it's hard to win an Oscar. Oh no, of course it's hard to win an Oscar. The Oscar should be one of the most impossible things to win. Because you got to be in a field against 500 other people in the running who are the best in the world at what they do. It should be hard to win an Oscar. It should be nigh impossible to win an Oscar. I don't like participation prizes at the Oscars. I still don't like the fact that we have a Best Animated Movie category. Either a movie is one of the best movies of the year, regardless of its medium, or it's not. I honestly still believe to this day, 100%, that the Academy only created the Best Animated category as a cop-out, so they didn't have to deal with it. Because what was happening was, you had a string of like 7 years in a row, mostly due to Pixar, where like 6 out of 7 years, the #1 critically rated films of the year were animated films. But the Academy didn't want to nominate animated films at the time. It was still wrapping its head around animation. Now we are seeing animated films get nominated for Best Picture from time to time. It does happen now. But I don't even like the fact that we have a Best Animated Award. I really don't. To me, that's a cop-out award. That's a participation award. It's like, okay, you weren't good enough for the real trophy, but here you go, pat them on the head. Here's your nice little participation Oscar just for you. And I feel like if we did that with like actors who are under 18, all we're doing is we're devaluing the Oscar. We're undervaluing it. It's like, but John, it's harder for them to be as good as the 45 or the 50-year-old actors. Good, then they don't deserve it. You should win an Oscar if you earn the Oscar. And Anna Paquin earned her Oscar. Great. So I have no problems with young child actors or younger actors being eligible to win them. That's great. But don't say, let's create a separate category for them. Why? Because they're not as good as the other guys. That's essentially what you're saying, Jonathan, my brother. You're essentially saying, well, these guys can't be as good as these guys, so let's give them their own Oscar. No, 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 no. I reject that. I do not want that at all. The Oscar is impossible to win, and it should be impossible to win. There's a reason that even Martin Scorsese, it took him so long to win one, because it should be nigh impossible to win it. Anyway, that's just my personal feelings on the subject. You guys may have a different opinion, which is totally fine. Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. Now, I'm about to go over to the live Twitter questions. You guys can start sending in tweets. Those of you guys who are watching live, there's like almost 1,500 of you in the chat board right now. Start typing in and start tweeting in those questions. Now, just before I do that, though, I'm going to take my daily little commercial break here to do my shameless plug. of my Patreon page, of course, on my Patreon campaign. Guys, many of you guys know I left the corporate overlords. I was not happy working for the corporate overlords. I wanted to leave working from under somebody else's thumb and really have the freedom to do what I want to do and do my own content. And I do all these videos in this channel by myself. But the only reason I'm able to do that is because of those of you guys who are my Patreon supporters. Listen, do me a favor, guys. If you are watching the show and you enjoy watching my programs and you spend any time per month watching my programs, head on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea and just check out the page. There you'll get all the information on what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how you being a Patreon supporter makes these shows actually possible. You guys are responsible for these shows being able to happen. And on top of that, the benefits of being a Patreon supporter. So, I mean, I've got Patreon supporters that contribute $100 a month. I've got Patreon supporters that contribute $2 a month. Just go check it out. And if you decide to be a Patreon supporter, awesome, you have my eternal gratitude. And if not, that's perfectly fine. I'm just happy you and I get to be brothers and sisters as film fans together. So, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to pop open my Twitter stream now. Remember, guys, it's just me, so I don't have somebody here, you know, screening these messages. So we'll just see how this all kind of goes. So we'll start off with this one. This one comes to us from Joseph Wu 174227, who writes, John, will we see the Soul Stone in Black Panther, or will it be saved for Infinity War? You know, it's funny because me and some friends of mine had a big discussion about that. And at first, now this is going back months ago, I thought there was a pretty good chance we would see the Soul Stone in in Black Panther. But not like Ant-Man, not every movie has to revolve around an Infinity Stone. I think you're right. I think they're going to save it for Infinity War. I think that's what we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see much about, well, wait a minute. I was about to say, I don't think we're going to see much about Infinity Stones or whatever in this movie. Wakanda is like technology-wise light years beyond the rest of the world. Could they use an Infinity Stone as saying is the source of their technology and power? Now, the comics have used different explanations throughout the years about why Wakanda is so far advanced. Could Marvel use the Soul Stone or even another one? Hey, they're not beholden. They could come up with something else if they want to, but could that be like, what is the secret behind Wakanda? I don't know. That's something I got to think about. I will still stick with Infinity War and that they won't address it in Black Panther, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's possible. What do you guys think? All right, next up. This one comes for us from Movie King 9, who writes, Dave Bautista for Gears of War as Marcus Phoenix. He was great in Blade Runner 2049. Yeah, but remember, look, I love Dave. I love him. He's done several things for me. He participated in our 24-hour marathon to help the victims in the Philippines after the typhoon. I've done some stuff with him with James Bond. I love him. He's great. He's one of the most humble, honest, grateful guys in this business I've ever met. He's one of the most authentic, and he just comes across as a huge teddy bear. I love Dave Bautista. Dave Bautista will be the first person to tell you, and because he's told me this on a number of occasions. Hey man, I'm not the best actor in the world, so I'm really grateful that I get a chance to use whatever skills I do have in something like that. And yes, his one scene in Blade Runner 2049 was quite good. His one scene. Is Dave ready at this point to, and I'm a fan of Dave Bautista, I'm a big fan of Dave Bautista. Is Dave Bautista got his acting skill set at the level that he can be the lead character and carry a movie? I don't know that he's there yet. And I think that could hurt his career. I would rather see him take 4 more years. Now, he's getting older, yes, but hey, like, it's older actors in Hollywood today still get tons of roles. So I would rather see him take 3 or 4 more years taking smaller roles and keep developing and keep training, keep getting better, and then take something else. I would be afraid that if he tried to lead a movie right now, it could sabotage his career. So I'm going to say no right now. Right now, I will go no, but I could see the upside to it as well. Maybe you guys have some more thoughts on that. Okay, let's see this. Morkel writes, John Campea, favorite Spielberg movie post-2000? Well, you know what? I have to look something up because the movie I want to say, I can't remember off the top of my head. Came out in 97. I was going to say my favorite Spielberg movie is Amistad. Amistad is actually my favorite Spielberg movie. It's funny because a lot of people look at me funny when I say that, but I think Amistad is just like nutty good. Like nutty good. Catch Me If You Can is fantastic. Obviously, Saving Private Ryan was 98 or 99. It was back there. Post 2000, I'm going to go Catch Me If You Can. I think Catch Me If You Can is a tragically underrated movie. I'm just going to pull up his list here and look at his most recent. I think War Horse is tragically underrated. Lincoln is fantastic. I really like Bridge of Spies. I didn't like The Terminal. Minority Report was 2001. Gosh, I mean, what a resume this guy has. Like, if you look at his pre-2000 resume, impeccable. Look at his post. This is just post-2000. Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, War of the Worlds, Munich, which I think that got nominated for Best Picture as well. War Horse, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies. I mean, give me a break. I'll go Minority Report. I'll go my favorite Spielberg movie post-2000 is going to be Minority Report. If you ask me on another day, I might go back to Catch Me If You Can. But today, I'll say Minority Report. Let's see. This one comes to us from R. Drago66, who writes, John, in honor of those Lyft commercials with Tilda Swinton and Jordan Peele, what is your favorite commercial with celebrities? I don't know, man. Honestly, I'd have to think about it. I have to sit down and try to bring those back to mind. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Ronnie Howlett3, who writes, John, now that we are getting into the best award season, does Hugh Jackman still have a chance of getting a Best Actor nomination? I think he still has a chance. I think Patrick Stewart has a better chance at Best Supporting Actor, but I think Hugh Jackman has a chance, but I'm going to put it at like a 15% chance, whereas Patrick Stewart, I think he's rocking like a 40% chance that he'll get a Best Supporting. I still believe, I haven't seen The Post yet, and I haven't seen Three Billboards, and there's a number of other films that are coming out this award season that I have not seen. But as of right now, to me, Logan is still the best movie of the year. And Patrick Stewart absolutely deserves, as of right now, absolutely deserves a Best Supporting Actor nomination. And an argument could be made for Hugh Jackman as well, but I don't think as much as, say, Patrick Stewart at this point. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Milky7382. John, why can't you say when you're seeing Justice League? For same reason that the few people who have seen Justice League aren't allowed to tweet about it. We just can't at this point. Next one. Ryanix8 writes, John, if Thor The Dark World was actually a really good movie, do you think the Thor trilogy could be considered one of the best? Yeah, because look, I know not all of you share my opinion on this, and that's fine. I think the first Thor by Kenneth Branagh is brilliant. I think that movie's freaking brilliant. The themes that run throughout, the performances Branagh gets out of the guys, the overall story arc of it, and the action is great too. I'm not so big on the love interest in the movie, but other than that, I think that movie's brilliant. So you take that with Thor Ragnarok. Look, somebody asked me this the other day. Do I think in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, would I take the Iron Man trilogy or the Thor trilogy? Easy, Thor trilogy. The first Iron Man's great. Iron Man 2, not so much. Iron Man 3, not so much. I liked Iron Man 3. I did. I liked Iron Man 3. But to me, the Thor trilogy is better than the Iron Man trilogy. That's just my opinion at any rate. All right, guys, I still got a few minutes here. Let's go. Next one comes to us from Hayden Litz, who writes, Riddick 4, will it happen? I doubt it. I have my doubts. And to be honest, I'm not all that heartbroken about it because I know there are a few of you out there who really like a couple of those Riddick films. I have not. I really didn't like the first one. What was it called? Pitch Black? Was that what the first one was called? And I know a lot of my friends love that movie. And I watch them like, what? Why? But that just makes me the odd man out. And that's okay. I don't mind being the odd man out once in a while. This one comes to us. Fandang guy who writes, John, thoughts on The Other Guys spinoff with The Rock and Samuel Jackson? Well, considering that movie starts with them dying, it would be pretty tough. And now that they're so much older than they were in that movie, it's not like you can do a prequel per se. Hey, look, there was a time after The Other Guys came out that I was even one of the guys saying, I would love to see another Guys prequel, but I'm not so much anymore. I think that time's passed. I'm not too down with it right now. Let's see. This one comes to us from Tasty Goat Balls, who writes, John, what other way apart from Flashpoint can Warner Brothers get rid of Ben Affleck from the DCEU? Lots of ways. Simple. The easiest one is just recast. Just that easy. But John, that'll confuse the audience for about 5 seconds. Look, the Harry Potter franchise can change their Dumbledore. Now, granted, the actor passed away, yeah, but still, to the audience, they're watching the movies, one guy's Dumbledore, then they're watching the movies, and the new guy's Dumbledore. Took everybody about 3 seconds to readjust their brains, and everything was fine after that. Everything was fine. So really, recasting is just the simplest way to do it. Another possibility is that they kill off Batman. They bring in Armie Hammer as Dick Grayson to take up, who has been Nightwing off in Bloodhaven doing his own thing, and now he comes in and takes up the mantle of the Bat. That's another way they could do it if they wanted. They could do the Flashpoint thing where Negan comes back, and Negan as Papa Wayne, and he's Batman, so you could do that if you wanted. So there's a lot of different ways, but really, the most simple way, if this all happens the way I believe it's happening, just recast it. Just recast him. But all the confusion, dogs and cats won't be laying down together with, lollipops falling from the sky. It's not going to be chaos. Everybody will adjust and it'll be fine in about 3 seconds. It'll be fine if they do that. Let's see. This one comes to us from Alone and in Debt writes, John Campea, Disney is giving Pixar's Coco a Best Picture push. Could it snatch a nomination? Up and Toy Story 3 did. I've seen Coco. It is under embargo, even though there are some reviews up about it right now. The North American embargo is still in place until later tonight. I am going to be doing a review of it, and I will put it up later tonight. But to hell with it. I'll tell you this much. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful film. And I still think they're going to have problems at the box office with it because this is a tough film to market. And I don't know that, with themes of Land of the Dead and all that kind of stuff, that I think there are going to be some parents that hesitate taking their kids to go see it. Whether they should or not is a totally separate discussion, but I think there will be some people that hesitate taking their kids to see it. But all I know is that I saw it the other day and it's all kinds of wonderful. It really is. And you guys who've been watching, I've been having my doubts about it. I had my doubts about it. It's wonderful. My full review of that will come up a little bit later. But I'm all for Disney giving it a Best Picture push. Whether they'll actually get it, I'm not sure. But I'm all for them getting behind it. Let's see this one. Trevor Riches writes, Hey John, what do you think are the chances of The Last Jedi passing The Force Awakens at the domestic box office? 5% at best. I think, look, I've mentioned this before, I will say it again. And you guys know I live, breathe, die Star Wars. But The Force Awakens was a perfect storm of situation of Star Wars is back, wanting it to be redeemed from the prequels, all this stuff. There was just this big thing that all came together. You don't have that anymore. Star Wars is already back. So you don't have that anymore. This movie is going to make ridiculous amounts of money. It's going to join the $1 billion club in like the first 3 weeks. It's going to have no problem hitting the $1 billion club. Like it's going to be a nap. It's not even going to open. It's going to cross $1 billion. That's how good this movie is going to do. But do I think it's going to hit that like $2.1 billion thing? I have my doubts about that. I really do. Certainly possible. Look, if everybody watches it and the critics love it and the audience loves it and everybody raves about it, then it's possible. I will give it a chance. But honestly, if I had to put down $5 right now, I would say no, it doesn't cross the $2 billion mark. But that's just my thought. All right, final question of the day, guys. And this one comes from, where did it go? There it is. Full Metal Photoog writes, John, what do you think about the STD, Star Trek Discovery? What do you think about STDs? I'm against STDs. Anyway, what do you think about the STD remake of the Klingons? You know what? I'll be honest with you. You've heard me say this before already, but I have been crap talking and trash talking Star Trek Discovery for almost a year. I said, this is a stupid idea. This is never going to work. Putting it on CBS All Access is a dumb idea. I still think that part is a dumb idea. But all this kind of stuff. And then I watched the first episode. I'm like, this is pretty good. And I've really enjoyed the show. I really enjoy the show. And you know what? The Klingon thing, because they've redesigned the Klingons. But let's not pretend this is the first time Star Trek has redesigned the Klingons. They've redesigned the Klingons a couple of times already. So for them to redesign them again, I adjusted to it. Like, just like the recasting of Batman thing. It took me a few minutes to wrap my head around, okay, this is what Klingons are now. These are Klingons. And once I wrapped my head around it, it was perfectly fine, and I really started to dig it. And I fully enjoy this show. I love it. I know some people have some problems with it. I know my buddy Robert Meyer Burnett, who's a huge Trekkie fan, he really hates this show. And that's fine. And I know there are a lot of hardcore original Star Trek fans that aren't happy with it. And okay, that's fine. All I know is that as an audience member, I had bad thoughts about this show. I thought it was going to be crap. I did not give it a single chance. And I sat down and watched it. I'm like, well, I gotta swallow it because this is good. And I'm just because I've been saying it's going to be crap, I got to call it like I see it. I watched it and I liked it and I think it's damn good. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the John Campea Show. I really appreciate you guys joining me and being fellow film fans. And you know what else here, guys? Let me encourage you about this too. I like to do this at the end of every show. Remember, it's one of the best things about being a movie fan is that we're all movie fans, but we get to argue and debate and discuss, like me and my buddy Robert Meyer Burnett. He hates the new Star Trek. I love the new Star Trek. And we can get together, and we have, and talk about it and hash things out and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. It's always important to remember that we're all on the same side. We're all movie fans. We just have different points of view and opinions. So when you're engaging in those fun debates and disagreements and arguments, when you're engaging in those things, just remember we're all on the same team. Treat each other with respect. Even if you start using that, people like, you're crazy, that's fine. But let's not get into the name calling or whatever. Treat each other as fellow film fans, as if, hey, I'm glad you're a film fan, and I want to treat you like I'm glad that you're a film fan, even if I disagree with you on this. So now let's get into it and let's fight about this topic. Just be respectful of each other. That's all I ask you guys. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining. Listen, do me a favor. Make sure you click the thumbs up button, leave a comment in this video, share this video around if you want. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until a little bit later today, bye-bye.